We bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on The Fact Today, only on ATN.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank. POS operator, she said 3,000 is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed, and in between are the cowards.
From where we are.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining me on the show this morning is Dr. Nelson V.C. Okene. Dr. Nelson is a lecturer, Department of Political and Administrative Studies, University of Port Harcourt. Good morning, Dr. Nelson.
Good morning.
And welcome to Open Conversation.
Thank you.
The APC has swept all 17 local government chairmanship seats in the just concluded local government council election in the state. The APC also won the 178 councillorship seats in Yobe State. The chairman, Yobe State Independent Electoral Commission, Dr. Maman Mohammed, announced this at the commission's headquarters in Damaturu on Sunday. Dr. Nelson, what is your immediate reaction to what is your immediate reaction to this? I mean, is it a one-party system going on in Yobe State?
My reaction is that this is beginning to look like voodoo politics. It doesn't look real. It doesn't look real. We are coming out of general elections last year, and we saw the general performance of the APC. Mm-hmm. We have witnessed 1 year of that government in politics, and Nigerians are not. Nigerians will not be rewarding that party with such massive support within this 1 year. And what is happening in APC? I don't know if there's some way the local observers there can explain the details that will make it realistic and make it believable. It just looks like voodoo. Are we saying that the other parties do not have any kind of support at all? They don't have membership anywhere? This looks like something that was just manufactured instead of actual election. It's worrisome. Because if this is the trend, if this is a pointer to the trend, then that portends very dangerous days for democracy in Nigeria. It's difficult to believe.
I mean, 17 local government,
178, all for the same party.
And then you look at it, this result was announced by the chairman of the state INEC, the YOSIEC.
Yes.
You would wonder, what role has the role of INEC in free and fair elections, particularly the states? Mm. You know, to a large extent, there have been calls for, you know, to close down the state INEC and then adopt INEC at the federal level for elections across states and local governments. Could this be one of the reasons? I mean, looking at the influence of the executive on the state INEC.
Now, for me, those are just besides the issues. Is the INEC at the national doing any better? Are they not still tools in the hands of whoever is controlling the federal government? Mm-hmm. What difference does that make? Is it moving from one colonial master to the next? Does that solve the problem? Can we look at dealing with the institution? Can we look at setting up power, being able to hold people to account for what they do with power? Even after the announcement, even after the election, can we audit the process and find out if there is a problem with the process, if it was corrupted, if it was rigged, and punish people where they have erred? So that, you know, when people think about consequences, they are constrained to act within the confines of the law. It's not really about moving INEC from being subject, the state, being subject to, from the state governor to federal. It will not change anything. It will just be a question of whoever hold power at the top, we call the shot, and use them to achieve whatever political goals they want.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, democracy suffers. There is no accountability. You cannot get good governance under those kind of systems. And then what does that leave for us for our development and all that?
Right.
So we should begin to design a system that will hold people accountable, and then let there be consequences for abuse.
All right. You talked about auditing the process and accountability. I will
Yes.
come back to you on that, but let me get the immediate reaction of Asim Adams. What's your take on this?
It's laughable, and but I'm not shocked. I'm not bewildered. I keep laughing. You know why? This has been the trend. It's not just Yobe State.
Or your state as well.
It's going to continue. It's going to be on a continuous trend. That is, even in my own state where I come from, if you look at the present people who are there now, the elections were cleared by the PDP. You know, all the councillors of the world cleared by the PDP. So you ask yourself a question. What exactly is the problem happening? Is it the issue of OSIEC, or is it SIEC or SIEC? Well, let me use the word SIEC. And the governor, NEC or INEC, as the case may be. In my own opinion, I believe that governors at all levels, I describe INEC as bad, but the institutions called SIEC are worse, you know, than INEC. At least, if INEC is to conduct elections in Edo State September 21st, they have released their their timetable at the national level. They release their timetable, go and campaign, go and do this. Even if the president wants to have a say in who becomes the governor of Edo State, my own state, it is hidden. There's a way they are going to, move it, and we might not really know that we know they are manipulating, but it will not be so glaring, so that the blind can even see that, see, this election is being rigged, like what is happening here, So they have the impunity to even come out, because they have the powers to now select who will be chairman or director of the SEC. The governors have the power to nominate or bring the person in. So he can go there and say, bring somebody that is from his own political party and say, go ahead, SEC for me. Make sure that you deliver. Then the man goes. Immediately he delivers, they are happy. And before you know, they appoint the man as something, as case may be. So there's no element of transparency at all in this SEC arrangement in Nigeria here. The state governors have bastardized everything. Now, what do we do? How do we nip this in the bud? I saw that the Supreme Court, the AG went to the Supreme Court to ask for autonomy for local government so that they can be running their affairs, etc. But that would be practically impossible, or let me say near impossible, because the governors, we still have control over local governments, both their elections, as the case may be, under that Section 7 of the Constitution that gives the governor, and the state government and the House of Assembly. Most governors control their houses of assembly in the states. So if they are to make laws on local government good governance, structure means all these things we're talking about now, functioning, so it's going to still be under them. So I don't know, are you going to amend Section 7 to say completely remove local government management from the hands of the House of Assembly? Who is going to be making laws? Is it that the councillors themselves? Because by virtue of the Constitution and the territorial whatever we have in Nigeria, councillors ought to be members of the House of equivalent like Parliament in the local government council. They ought to be lawmakers, just like you see, like we call lawmakers in our House of Assembly here now. Councillors ought to be lawmakers in the local government. They can remove the chairman. You understand? They can impeach the chairman, just like you can impeach the government in the House of Assembly. But what exactly are we going to do? Like Doctor said, I think it's high time we put something on ground, a punitive measure that makes it that electoral fraud should be treated, as the same as somebody who is trafficking in drugs, cocaine. The same punishment should be meted out to them, or terrorists. Because if you have people who are declaring the whole 17 local government, it's like you have captured the state. Yes. You didn't even go to the people's whatever, you just captured the state. Yeah, but terrorists do capture states. So they should be treated as terrorists and prosecute them and make laws in line with that. If you are found wanting, influence an election, it is as case may be, You go life imprisonment without option of fine. I think that should be the stepping stone we have to do, because the essence of law, it can happen.
It can happen.
If we put ourselves together.
Do you see the lawmakers, amending the constitution or, bringing up laws that will affect them?
Of course, you see, the lawmakers...
When there will still context for elections.
If we have... See, the process is faulted and faulty. That is why we have people who go to National Assembly and they cannot do anything that will influence the law and go for good governance, as the case may be. Why is that so? Because of the faulty background. How does it become a faulty background? It's because of election. Because all senators and House of Reps, went through an election process, and some of them got there, manipulating the system to get to that particular position. So, what do we do at the lower level right now, apart from the punitive measures of laws? Now, people should even go to the street and protest in Yobe State, for instance, and say these people will not recognize them because they are not our products. We did not vote for these people, the 17 of them, and 173 councillors, we did not vote for them. So they are not even representing us. If they start that kind of protest, you find that other states and people begin to follow suit. But in Nigeria here, we are also docile and very passive. People are jubilating in the Yobe State now. That gives the politician that impunity to do more worse things than this, as the case may be. So it's a system change that we need in Nigeria here.
Right.
I just believe we can do it.
Dr. Nelson, you spoke about consequences, having punitive measures, and also investigating electoral malpractices. Now, so far there have been electoral tribunals, year after year,
Yes.
election after election. So far, what has these electoral tribunals done to ensure that after investigation of probably electoral malpractices, the right thing is done?
Okay, what happens usually with the case of tribunals is those who are contesting and the parties take the issues, whatever their grievances are, to the courts for redress. But I'm talking about a system that is administrative.
Okay,
and
purely different from what we have.
No, not because you are an aggrieved party and you're seeking redress. Maybe you want to alter the outcome of the election in your favor in one form or the other. But something that is purely administrative, that is automatic, that will kick in whether you want to or not, whether you're even removed immediately after the election. That audit takes place to look at all the protocols for the election, whether you took decisions deliberately just to alter or favor a particular candidate or party, and then design punishment for that when those things happen. But the problem really is that the entire system, just like a barrister was saying here, there's a problem with the system. And the chief problem is that there's a high level of docility from the Nigerian masses. People are laid back. People have given up interest in their governance. Poverty.
Probably over time.
Yes.
Apathy setting because
apathy
you
sets
vote and your vote does not count.
Good. Your vote does not count and you withdraw. And after you withdraw, then very soon your life will not also count. Poverty becomes endemic. Your children will inherit that structure. So at what point do you resign? How do you keep going back and back? We are making political office holders into mini gods. Once they come into power, they are no longer human beings, they are gods. Imagine the kind of structure we just built for a sitting vice president in the midst of this hardship. In the midst of this hardship. Is the government celebrating that? The whole world is mocking Nigeria. How can you be this poor? How can your country be going this kind of poverty? And you're building such edifice for a sitting vice president who in actual case actually also living in affluence. He's not living in IDP. He's not living in anywhere that is below his standard as a vice president. Even if there has to be upgrade, it has to be something that is reasonable, that respects what the masses are going through.
All right. All right.
So that kind of systemic change cannot take place by at the wish of politicians because they cannot remove themselves from power. The masses, NGOs, international civil organizations, all interested parties, we need to wake up.
All right. The presidential candidate of the New People's Party, Rabiu Kwakwanso, says Kano State Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf was distracted for about 1 year by those he termed the enemies of the state. Kwakwanso said this on Saturday when the incumbent governor was declaring the state of emergency on education in the state. The NNPP leader lamented that though the governor won the March 2023 gubernatorial election as declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission, the enemies of the state dragged him to court. Let me start with you, Barrister Asin.
Yes.
I mean, what is your immediate reaction to this statement by Kwakwanso making a case for Governor Yusuf of Kano State?
He was distracted, but he was collecting salaries for the period he was distracted. He was distracted, and at the same time, he was getting the largesse of office. He sponsored people to this Hajj while under distraction. You know, he created a lot of, emirates in Kano while under distraction, etc. as the case may be. Elections in Nigeria is something, or even worldwide, like in the US, we saw what happened that when Joe Biden won that election, during the electoral college counting and all those things. You saw what Donald Trump was trying to do, trying to, influence the system, create distractions for, the system and the rest of them. And even after this man was to be sworn in, you saw the action that took place in America for the first time, where the Congress was now invaded by people, who people suspected to be Trump supporters, as the case may be. So it does happen. If the law provides, like in Nigeria here, politicians do not accept results of election because they know that the system is faulty itself. That's why you see, when you are smart them, they are very angry because they know that you are smarter them. It's the Nigerian mentality. I was on the road one day. Nigerians hate losing. Nigerians just believe that the moment you are smarted by somebody, this is a war. You must get back your whatever. Somebody is driving on the road, he has overtaken you. You say, the guy won't show me, say, a car, they don't pass. You put your own on their fight. You begin to move and want to overtake him. I don't know why Nigerians see life like that. Even in football, Nigerian fans will see glaring this thing that their team has lost the game. They go back home and say, if not because of the offside, that referee's offside was not, you are not part of that system. It's the same they put into election and electoral in Nigeria here. People are never satisfied with election result because they know that the system that brought up, the system itself is corrupt. Now, coming to Kwakwanso is this. The question I'm asking him is that, are you not aware that there are tribunals, that when you win an election, that you go to tribunal, the other man who is not satisfied, by virtue of section 134, can challenge your election. It's a law in our land here. 134 of the Electoral Act clearly says so, that I can challenge, the winner of an election and give reasons why I'm challenging. So if it is a law, I have the right to challenge you and go to court. I don't see that as a distraction, but it's a legal right of mine that I have explored. And now, if you call it a distraction, it means that you are saying that that law should be scrapped. So I don't know where that distraction came in. I believe that they are the ones distracting themselves. Because, like I said, for those period of 7-6 months or whatever the case may be, you were collecting salaries, emoluments, feeding your family in state house, living in state house, doing everything. Kano people's money, never complain. So this time around, please, sir, I want to advise, since you have known that you were distracted, now that you are not distracted, start working. Politicking has stopped. You see, that is why you see governors who win election. When they go to Supreme Court, they celebrate around the whole state that they have won election, won at the Supreme Court. That man is so, I don't know, we need to do something that we work on our ethos and the ethics and the way we live our lives. So for me, what form of distraction? I'm a lawyer. I know that if I file a suit and I throw a writ at somebody, I'm expecting that the man will go and get a lawyer to come and challenge me and kind of reprobate what I'm trying to say. So that is what the law says. So why will I be angry? Will I say it's a distraction from me not delivering justice as case may be? I wouldn't think it's that way. So let him properly focus himself and do the needful and let Kano State move forward.
All right. Now, Dr. Nelson, Kwakwanso making excuse for Governor Yusuf, there is a saying that goes that leadership trumps excuses. Now, if something, as I would say in this context, as minor as a suit, because it's not necessary that he will be present all the time, going to court, and it's not like court was every day. So if they are using that as an excuse for governance, I mean, what is the hope that moving forward, with all the bickering, the fighting in Kano State, with Ganduje and all of that, the conundrum going on, if a lawsuit they could tag it as as distraction, then what happens when you look at the larger picture?
There's problem, but just to go back to that, I was just laughing as he was speaking all through. Even from the first CVs we started putting together when we had first degree, one of the things we always like to put there is that we have capacity to work under pressure. We will multitask. Almost all of us had it, you remember?
We can work under pressure.
So you're growing up, one of the things that you must realize that life is not a linear experience. You have multiple things coming at you from all angles. You cannot be coming for the office of a governor, you're not emotionally matured, you're not balanced enough to handle all the pressure. Then you're asking people that you're telling people that you're not qualified to be there. That is an office that is very busy, a lot is expected, you have a whole lot of pressures coming to you. You cannot be making excuse with a legal process that is constitutional, which you're not even required to be in court. Donald Trump in his 80s is going to court, being constrained to sit in court, and he's still campaigning. He's still campaigning, and all that. So, and you're sitting there as a governor and you're saying you're distracted, you could not govern because of a court case. That is such a lame excuse. And I mean, they should think of something better. And focus on the business of governance with seriousness. Those who voted them in, and even those who did not vote for them, but for which they are now governors of the state, expect a lot more. The resources of the state are being put in their hands. The life of the citizens, they practically have the power to cause people to die or live with serious business. And if they are not ready, they should throw in the towel and go do something else.
Right. Organized labor has rejected the claim by state governors under the aegis of Nigeria Governors Forum that they cannot afford 60,000 naira minimum wage, urging them not to plunge the country into a monumental crisis. Speaking on behalf of Labour, Nigerian Labour Congress accused the governors of being economical with the truth regarding their resources. The governors had described the 60,000 naira proposed by the federal government as unrealistic. A statement by Acting Director of Media Affairs and Public Relations of Nigeria's Governors Forum, Halima Ahmed, noted that if allowed to fly, many states will use all their monthly allocations from the federal account to pay workers' salary. But a statement by NLC's Head of Information and Public Affairs, Benson Oba, said Federation Allocation Account Committee allocations have since grown from 700 billion naira to 1.2 trillion naira, increasing the governor's capacity to pay more than 60,000 naira as minimum wage. Barrister Sims, what is your take on this?
You know, the issue of minimum wage, right from when it was brought into a legal lexicon in Nigeria here in 1981, the Shagari government was the first civilian government that brought about what we call today minimum wage in 1981. It was an enactment. Then Joseph Wires, the Senate President, and the mayor will say, okay, we're in our parliament here. They brought about the minimum wage. And it was an agitation by the Nigerian Labour Congress at that time, led by one Hassan Sumonu. Unfortunately, Hassan Sumonu did not bicker this long before the government of Shagari deemed it and saw it necessary to now, assent to that particular bill to become a law in 1981. And that bill fixed the sum of 125 naira as the minimum wage as at that time. And I still remember my uncle who used to work in Bender State Farms at that time. He comes home and say, they have just paid us our money in a punctured envelope, brown envelope like that. Say, this is the money, 125 naira. He could do a lot of things with it. And by comparison, as at that time, 125 naira in 1981 was equivalent of $204. You will not believe it, but do your research. 125 naira in 1981 was equivalent of $204.5. In other words, the naira was stronger, in the currency market than the dollars at that time.
Far stronger.
You understand? In 1981. So, with 125 naira, they can buy a lot of things. You can marry a lot of wives, even as it is there. Now, the battle has been. That law now said that every 5 years, that the review of the minimum wage must be done. From 125, they now increased to, I think, about 200 and something, just like that, till 18,000. 18,000 now lasted for a very long time. Now, you now have what they call 30,000 there about now. Now, fast forwarding this to this is this. The 494,000 being advocated by labor is very reasonable, but it's not practicable. Being reasonable in the sense that if you look at the inflation rate, when we go to the market, for instance, if I give my wife the sum of 50,000 to go to the market, I don't even know what she's going to bring back. I even thought my wife was deceiving or maybe eating the money. I had to try one day. I said, let me go to the nearest market. I had a lot of money, 70,000. I got in there. I couldn't buy a bag of rice. I couldn't buy a lot of things. I came back and I was now almost weeping. So 494,000, even 500,000 naira is very reasonable. But it's not practicable, as minimum wage. You know why it's not practicable? A lot of eruptions are going to come up on the system. Now, those who work in high-profile companies, both federal stars, that earn more than 400,000, do not fall within this minimum wage fight. Because already they are receiving more than even above the proposed minimum wage. Well, it's not your concern. But the moment you jack up, for instance, the government agrees to say 494 is the basic you can receive in unemployment of a staff strength of over 20. And me, being a PhD holder doctor who has been receiving 450,000 naira per month as my basic, then when you add my allowances for housing, etc., now goes to 520,000. Then the gate man and the law people who were receiving 30,000 naira before, you now bring their salary at par to my 450 because my own is above the minimum wage or whatever. It means that I'll be receiving almost equivalent with all of us will be receiving almost the same thing. Now, what happens? Once that happens, the MD of my company will be in trouble because I'll be asking for salary increase. You understand the point? I'll be asking for salary increase to push up because you cannot tell me that we've only certificated so much in Nigeria, then the same person under me will be earning the same with me. It's not impossible. You have to push up for salary increase. And once you ask for salary increase, it means that the company will now look at people twice. And I say it's true, I will pay PhD holders 1 million naira. Then the other one stop. Then they begin to say we cannot pay. It becomes a problem. That is on the organized private sector side an argument that they are making. The other side, the government also, there are 60,000 that they have even said, even though it's 100% increase from 30 to 60,000. For me, it's not realistic, it's not practicable. I would say that the government should push this thing to a minimum of 150,000 naira. Let it be the basic. That 150,000 naira should be the basic everybody receive. Mind you, the law says that If I have one person in my office as an employee, I'm not bound to pay the person the minimum wage. It is only when I have up to 20 staff in my office that the minimum wage will begin to count. Now, so make it 150,000 naira for now. With 150,000 a month, basic, adding one or two other things to it, you find that the lowest paid person in an organization will be going with about 2-something in a month, 270-something in a month. At least that will cushion that man's effect. But the final say on this is this. That is why you see countries all over the world, they don't discuss this issue of minimum wage increase or whatever. They table it, they discuss secretly. Because the moment people know that they have increased your salary, the goods in the market, inflation, your landlord will come and tell you, in a house we are paying 100,000 naira per annum. He will say your salary has been increased. It's now 400,000. If you don't want to pay, leave my house. So that is where the problem, the spiraling effect will be. That is why I have admonished. A labor leader called me and I gave my legal advice on this. On the legal side, no problem. But on the social, side, I told him myself, okay, let me tell you, everywhere in the world, issue of minimum wage, you don't go on strike. You don't pull down the nation because you are going on minimum wage, whatever. I mean, nobody talks about minimum wage in the open. It's something between God. It's a negotiation that goes on for years before you now arrive. Because the moment you increase, there will be stagflation if you're not very careful, as case may be. Now, the other final thought on this is our government, please, the reason why this we are asking for, minimum wage of 150 is because of the inflation in town. If, for instance, you pay me 30,000 naira and a bag of rice is 2,000 naira or even 5,000 naira, will I begin to complain? I will not complain. If I can rent a house for 5,000 naira a month, I will not complain. If I have electricity in my house, I don't need to buy fuel, and the tariffs are very low for them, will I complain? I will not complain. If you bring down the price of fuel to the minimum level that it used to be, we can even buy fuel in Nigeria for 80 naira per liter. I will not even complain. I'll be enjoying my life and going on. But when you now make these things, you increase them, but my salary and my wages are still in the same pattern, then there's a problem. So there's a difference between minimum wage and salary. The upper class are not asking for minimum wage. They'll be asking for salary increase. Whereas those who score below 400 downwards to 30 will now be asking for minimum wage, increase. It's a very delicate one. It's not going on strike. You know that the government we have, the reason why Labour had to go on strike and even shut down the national grid was because we have a military democracy in Nigeria here. They don't listen to anything as case may be. So that is just my take on this one.
All right, Dr. Nelson, what is your take?
Well, he has spoken to a lot of
Meanwhile,
the issues.
don't forget that the government has now pegged it at 62,000. And Labour said they are going to have conversation with the federal government today.
I was expecting what federal government had done the moment Labour called off that strike in such a manner. It was a charade. It was a huge joke. You cannot start strike and in less than 24 hours you call it. You've lost the momentum. I was even expecting the federal government have said 60,000 and 500 because they now have to joke around with you. You've lost the opportunity to really negotiate. Going on national strike is not a child's play. So the moment you go on national strike, hold on to it until you achieve something reasonable. Now, it will be more difficult for Labour to come back now and say they want to go on another strike. Because now, even the kind of support they got the last time, they may not get the second time. But this is an issue of life and death, if you might use that. How do you say you're giving 60,000 as minimum wage when that cannot? What is the purchasing power of 60,000 naira in this economy today? Besides the fact that a whole lot of people, the unemployment rate in the country is very high. So the few persons that are working are carrying the burdens of all the other ones, directly or indirectly. You're saying you're going to pay 60,000 naira. As at 2019, when the last minimum wage was done, the 30,000 naira was about the equivalent of about $100. Use that $100 at least now as a minimum and see how much does that give you. Why will you be talking about 60,000 naira? And then the Governors Forum is playing bad politics by going on air and constraining, trying to influence the negotiation from the outside. They are not taking into relevance what they are now earning because of the fuel subsidy and the increase in the allocation and all that. They are not also looking at what they are gaining, what they are paying themselves in the executive, in the legislature, and cutting down on all those excesses.
Cost of governance.
Cutting down on all those excesses. And they are joking with a time bomb, to put it very bluntly, because there is so much that people can bear. Even if you put a rat in a room and start chasing the rat around, there's a way you chase the rat, it hits the ball and jumps back at you. Nigerians might not take this continually forever. So the political class needs to be aware of that. It is true that they have managed to somehow intimidate and blackmail and manipulate the citizens into a position of docility. But it is not true that they will continue to bear this forever. People are suffering. And the government now has an opportunity to do something meaningful. They cannot be offering 60,000 naira and wait for the next 5 years to renegotiate. If this is something, in fact, even that law saying it's 5 years is not cast in stone, it should be changed. Make this administrative, make it one year, and let it be seamless, let it flow naturally. You look at the inflation and all that, adjust it gradually, and let people just not be talking about this every five years. Because if labor accepts this, the next renegotiation is next 5 years. What will be the rate of inflation at that time? What will happen? And then state governments are also behaving like the minimum wage is now maximum wage. They are reacting, they are trying to negotiate.
Don't forget that there are states that have not even implemented the 30,000 naira wage award.
Let them apply to be collapsed into other states now if they don't have capacity to govern themselves. Okay. Let them not pay the governors the same thing that they are paying their ex-governors that other governors are paying. Let them not pay the same thing they are paying their lawmakers that other rich states are paying. Let there be that difference. Let us see it and see that they are actually adjusting according to what their states are earning. But again, it should also make them go back to the drawing books and think creatively about how to increase wealth. Think about what to do within their states to increase their productivity, increase the wealth creation in the states. And when we speak about these employees in the civil service like their furnitures, they are supposed to be instruments and tools for generating wealth, for creating wealth and all that. Put them to good use, but pay them well.
All right.
If I may just add,
very quickly,
Labour, adding to what Dr. said, Labour disappointed a lot of us. And that is why you see that I'm being very apathetic to their struggle right now. They had two issues they were negotiating with the government: minimum wage increase and the electricity tariff. Do you know that in their negotiation, the tariff has been taken out.
It has been taken out.
So where do I come?
Like so many other things that they raised before that.
We supported them that we should add that particular thing to it. Even I was thinking they will add this pump price to that particular negotiation and say, if you don't bring it down, let us all of us stay in the dark for the next 1 year. And we're ready to stay with you until you bring these things down. But they didn't do all these things. Only their minimum wage. That is why they are playing. The government is playing with them. They cannot even go back to the national grid now to say they want to go and shut it down. Soldiers have occupied that particular place. Because that is the strength they had in the last day. Bring down the national grid. But they can't do it in this second strike. So that's will just keep people there.
All right.
It's so sad.
Fingers crossed, we'll still bring you updates on the discussion on minimum wage as it unfolds, because the Labour has said they are meeting with the federal government today. Thank you so much, Madams ESQ, for coming on Open Conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson Okene, for coming. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. You can always follow us and stay connected on all our socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. And on Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Do not forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Ogu.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATM.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.